So welcome to our video. My name is Ben Glass, also known as Digistep from Dubkasm. I'm here at the Dubkasm HQ in Bristol, and we're going to make a quick video about Echo units, Echo pedals. It's going to be running through each of our favourite Echo units, and not a product review of each thing, but homing in on our favourite features of each one and what makes it special, and the type of patches we'd use. The reason I wanted to make this video is because there is a dearth of videos on YouTube. It's very hard to find any videos of guitar pedals other than guitarists playing through them. So whenever I'm listening to pedals, I have to imagine what it's going to sound like with vocals and so on, which is why we've made this video, so you can hear different sources on different pedals. So I've always been fascinated by Echoes since I was a teenager really, and started playing around with an old copycat unit lent to me by my piano teacher. And that got me really hooked on Echo, and I was fascinated by how the Echoes change over time. Each regeneration, the magic that happens in each regeneration. So talking about frequency loss, low fidelity repeats, and something magical that happens almost as though when you have two facing mirrors and each reflection gets more and more indistinct. And I just love that. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about today, and hopefully it will fill the gap for anyone who's interested to hear what these sources sound like, not just an electric guitar. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. So the El Capistan by Strymon, they're an American manufacturer. This is one of my absolute favorite bits of gear, not just pedals, but gear full stop. Ever since I was a teen, I've been trying to capture this kind of like high-passed, crunchy delay that you used to get, like scientist type delay. King Tubby's had those like crunchy, granular sort of delays. This one was like a brightening over time of the sound. And this has a feature on it called high-end contour, and what that does is a type of high-pass filter. So this is the full band echo. Now with the secondary switches, you can engage 5 more parameters, and tape age turns into low-end contour. So once we've got that, so you can see it's got this amazing crunchy high pass sort of grit to it, and it's not even just a filter. It seems to add this kind of vintagey crunch to the sound as well. You can also dial in a bit of wow and flutter. Tape crinkle is another parameter. Especially it really shines on vocals. I mean, it's just an amazing sound. They've completely nailed it. It's also got a really good spring reverb emulation built in. The secondary parameter is holding down the 2 buttons, and time turns into a spring reverb. So if I just show you this is our oscillator on the desk. You can hear really realistic spring tank type sound. I can dial that back a little bit more. You can hear the wow and flutter coming in a little bit there, gives it a little warble. How dangerous. So that's the El Capistan. It's all really useful parameters, and I absolutely love it. I use it in our live shows as well for dub sirens and sound effects, and it's an absolute winner. Next up, we've got the Benidub Digital Echo. It's a digital delay, but that's been treated with filtering and some analog compression in the box to give it a kind of a warmth, so it has a tape echo type sound. When I got this, it was sent over from the guys in Spain. When I first got this pedal, I was expecting very much like a Bucket Brigade type analog delay sound, maybe like a Boss delay type sound, but I was really pleasantly surprised because what they've done is they've got the clarity of a digital delay, but with the same kind of crunch and sonics of a tape delay. Often with kind of Bucket Brigade type delays, analog delays, over time you get a kind of a muddying and a disintegration of the sound. But what's really nice about this is that it does retain the integrity of the original sound as it's being echoed. So you have the kind of frequency dropout and sort of granular type sound, but also it doesn't, you don't lose the intelligibility of the original signal. So let me give you a demo. So even after a lot of regenerations, you still have the kind of fidelity of the original signal. That's got a little bit of the high pass filter on it. I was expecting to have to engage the high pass filter a lot to get that kind of sound, but actually even with it completely off, they still achieved this really, really nice tape-like effect. So I just roll off a little bit of the bottom end with the high pass filter. I probably prefer it around 11 o'clock. So. So there is some of that kind of bubbliness that you get with a Bucket Brigade delay, but the kind of clarity of a tape and also the quality of a digital delay with that kind of reliable repeats. It's beautifully made and it's an absolute winner in my opinion. So this is the Eventide H9 Max. Now, the first thing that struck me about it was the sheer sound quality of the algorithms. And there's something very immersive about the repeats in this. They're filtered, but they don't sound artificially filtered. They sound like it really is going through some circuitry of some old tape echoes and pretty much every kind of echo you can imagine. I mean, it's an extravaganza of delays. It also contains all of the other Eventide pedal patches, the modulation ones, the reverbs, all of the classic Eventide effects. But what I've been really digging in deep on are the echoes. Now you've got an editor, which is the H9 control editor. This is where you can adjust all the parameters, store your own patches and use it like a librarian, and talk to the machine and vice versa. So I'm just going to run through a few of these through the sounds with you. I mean, the build is fantastic. It's a weighty, solid unit that's not going to break. It looks amazing on the desktop, and really the sounds just have a kind of a finesse and a sheen to them, which brings a kind of a dimension to the sound of your music. It really is like a fantastic unit. So I'm going to show you a couple of the sounds from that. So one of the great things about the H9 is its filtering. Depending on the model that you've got, it has a high pass, low pass or band pass filter. And in fact, the high pass filter is great. I often use high pass delays, but the band pass is also, it adds this kind of like brightening sound, which is very, very kind of crispy. And I want to just demonstrate that with a few little sounds. So it's pristine, really. There's zero noise there. And it degrades into that clicky, crunchy, classic tape delay sound, where the pitch information and the tone information have just disappeared, and all you're left with is that crackling residue. And I love that. That's very, very dubby. So one of my favourite patches on the H9 is the mod delay. It's a tape delay sound, but it introduces really lovely modulation, fluctuations over time. So it can be a subtle flutter, or it can be an extreme sweep type sound. You can actually use it almost imperceptibly. In this case, I've set up a tape delay with some a bit of filtering on it, a bandpass filter. And as you can see, the changes I make here on the unit are being reflected on the app. Let's have a little listen to this. What I really hear is a kind of a pristine clarity to all of the sounds it kicks out. Like I said, no noise, just a very, very in your face but musical sound. So it totally nails that crispy, clicky sort of feedback you get, where the pitch information and the harmonic information disappears, and all you're left with is kind of noise, really. It responds really nicely to vocals as well, you can see. With guitar. So that's the mod delay. It's a watery, warm, fluid kind of delay, and it just works on so many different sound sources, vocals, guitars, whatever you throw at it, it still sounds warm and fluid and floaty. It's great. It's really solid. So this next pedal is called the Lunar Echo by DMB Pedals. It's a Bucket Brigade pedal with a very, very unique sound. What I love about it is the sound breaks up in a kind of a fragmented way over time. There's a Prince Jammy album of Black Uhuru. There's a tune called Eden Dub, and the vocal echoes on that album, they break up into little fragments, and I've always been fascinated by that sound, and this to a certain level captures that, where the tail breaks up into chunks. I'll show you what I mean. So it's not something you would use as your main echo, but necessarily, because it breaks up so intensely. But I've used this as a stem in tunes, so I've run a whole track through this with the subtle kind of disintegrating echo, and had that as a layer behind the sound. So that's how I like to use this. But it's really quirky, and they're not made anymore, unfortunately. But it's a great little pedal. It's covered with glitter, and it's a good little monster to have around. So this is the Electro-harmonix Stereo Memory Man. It's a digital delay with an analog character to it. One of my favorite things is the stereo imaging. So it automatically, if you take the stereo out, it will automatically do an auto panning delay. And that's an excellent way of bringing stereo width to your mix. It's like having an auto panner placed after your delay. So you can hear that. I'm going to show you a little demo of this unit. This unit here is it's called a tone ruler, and it's a prototype of a sensor, which is an FM synthesizer, similar to a theremin, but it kicks out MIDI. So you can hear the pan moving around. Definitely use headphones on this if you can, or good speakers. Now, two really nice features in this is that you've got a filter, which is a high pass filter. That adds a really nice brightness to the sound. And it's got quite a tapey sound to it, even though it's very, very clear like a digital delay. Also, the blend, the decay button brings in a slight digital reverb, so you can add a little bit of slight bit of reverb. Can also be used for kind of washes of sound, so pad sounds or sounds without much of an attack, get kind of a swirly 3D type treatment. So it's a great unit, especially for stereo width delays and brightness and clarity. So this next one is the Nemesis delay by Source Audio. Source Audio makes some amazing kit. I bought this recently, the True Spring Reverb modeler, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's got this great springy sound. There's loads and loads of parameters you can edit in their Neuro editor, which of course the Nemesis delay has as well. So you can actually choose one of the 12 model delays that you like and then edit it in a lot of detail. Every single parameter can be edited and stored on the pedal and on a librarian as well in your computer. And the sound is really great. The build is it's really, really solidly built. All of the controls feel really nice, but the variety of sounds of delays on there is just what's really great about it. Plus the editability, so you can really fine tune your sound, store it on your pedal, and get some really great sounds from it. You've also got the option to save your presets, so here's one of mine.
Respected by the United Nations.
So they've got a really nice saturated distortion to the tail without it becoming really, really overdriven. And of course the little artifacts, like I said, the wow and flutter and tape fluctuation. It's a really great unit, and it's built like a tank, really, really quality sounds. and it's completely editable as well, so you can store loads of patches on there and get just the sound you want. So this is the Line 6 DL4 vintage delay modeler. You've got about 15-20 different models of tape delays. This is quite an old unit now. It's one of the first ones I ever got, and at the time it was really cutting edge because they were DSP-based recreations of analog units. It's covered in rust because I used it on the beach for a long time when I lived in Brazil, so it's all kind of like rusty. But it's stood the test of time. You know, I've had this for a long time now, and it's still going strong. It's an absolute beast. It's built like a tank. One of my favourite settings is the low res delay. So let's have a listen to that. So I'm actually running some sounds off a tape cassette here. I've just run some sound effects onto cassette, and the way that Echo units responds to tape is quite unique because it adds another layer of degradation and lo-fi quality to it. So with this unit, you get a kind of a slow build-up, you probably heard there, of kind of noise as well. You've got two filters, a low and a high-pass filter, but what they do, they're actually more like kind of lo-fi band-pass filters, and they play against each other, so you can gradually carve away. More or less, can you hear? There's a more of a band pass sound now. So you do have to ride the feedback a lot because it can be quite intense. There are so many different features on this. It's you've got this just wealth of different delay types, but that's my favourite, the lo-fi, low-res delay. So this is the Maestro Sireko, which is basically an Echoplex. The only difference it doesn't have the sound on sound feature of the Echoplex, but it's the same machine. It comes with a spool, a cartridge with the tape spool as you can see. It's got a fantastic sound. The actual preamp of the Sireko and the Echoplex is renowned for giving that particular sound, especially to guitars. It's a warm kind of crunch. Where this machine starts to become really magic is when you start feeding it back into itself. Now, depending on the mixer you're using, that actually works in different ways. So for example, the CM4400 soundtracks we use here in the studio, it had a kind of a muffled feedback tone, but when I connected it to my old 4-track, this is my old Yamaha MT120 4-track, and I used the inputs here to feed it back in combination with the onboard EQ, and just sculpted it to make it a little bit boxy and tinny. When I started feeding it back into itself, it sounded incredible. It was the closest I ever got to a kind of a King Tubby's Scientist, Prince Jammy kind of old school echo with the degradation and the sound breaking up. So when I first did that, it was like an amazing moment. It's hard to use in real time because it's unpredictable, it's quite noisy and so on. But I recently used it in our album Shady Grove on the vocal echoes. I'm going to show you some of those now. They were run onto tape and selected to actually recorded to cassette, and then I recorded them back into the DAW and used those as echoes within the project. But they sounded so good that I had to favour that over using an actual real-time delay. This is what they sound like.
Cha-cha is love and love.
So you get this kind of flickery, jagged sound, and slowly the bottom end fades away and it becomes like crispier and crispier. But what I found really fascinating was that that fragmentation into little chopped up fragments, which I think sounded fantastic. So I had to go the full whack and run it all onto tape and back into the DAW to get that sound. But this is a great unit. It's when I first bought it, it was full of dog hair, so I had to give it a good hoover out, and it stank. As soon as you turned it on, it stank of dogs. But once it was cleaned, it worked like a dream. I hope you've enjoyed the Dubkasm delay comparison video. Thanks a lot for watching. Stay in tune for more videos in the future, and keep in touch.